bottom. Antigen presenting cell then combines with what are called helper T cells, and there's different types. And they then go in two different directions. One antigen presenting cell and helper T cell take this pathway. Another helper T cell and antigen presenting cell goes this way. There may be more than one, there may be 2 or 3, but not very many. And these are the two pathways that begin this process that we call a specific immune response. It's called a specific immune response because it zeroes in on a specific antigen on a specific pathogen. Okay? It's not generic at all. This pathway is called the antibody mediated pathway. And this pathway is called the cell-mediated pathway. Each of them is looking for a different cell because there's actually 2 cells that have the necessary weapons to destroy this one particular bug that you have received from your family lineage. And without going into the details of these, so that you see the picture first, this pathway is ultimately going to lead to the production of this one produces a specific antibody for that specific antigen, just like when we talked about A blood cell type and B blood, A red blood cell type and B red blood cell type cause the production of A antibodies and B antibodies. And this pathway over here is going to lead to the production of millions upon millions of what are called cytotoxic killer T cells that have unique capabilities to destroy this particular pathogen and this particular pathogen only. And once these killer T cells are released in all your body fluids, and once these antibodies are released in all your body's fluids, it's just a question of a short period of time and the pathogen is going to be destroyed and you're going to feel better. So that is the outline of the classic specific immune defense pathway. And on your sheet there, if you'll follow along with me, we'll start filling in the blanks here. The antibody-mediated pathway, number 1. Chemical markers called antigens on the pathogen cell membrane provide immune response specific to that antigen by the production of specific antibodies. The response goes like this. An antigen-presenting cell engulfs a pathogen and collects its antigens. The antigen-presenting cell then activates helper T cells. Helper T cells then activate cells called B cells, a particular B cell. B cells, specialized lymphocytes activated by helper T cells to produce or become plasma cells and memory B cells. So the B cells convert then into plasma cells and these plasma cells produce these specific antibodies.
Is the B cell transition to plasma cells
Yes, this is the whole sequence of the pathway. Pathogen gets recognized by an antigen-presenting cell. Antigen-presenting cell engulfs the pathogen, whereas the antigen combines with the helper T cell to find the correct B cell. This is where the docking occurs with the antigen. It docks with a particular B cell that has a receptor site for that antigen. That bonding with the antigen stimulates the B cell to convert into plasma cells, which are the producers of antibodies. They produce all the antibodies specific to that antigen. So here are the antibodies released by the plasma cells, and over here is our pathogen. And when the antibodies are released, the antibody attaches itself to the antigen. And this causes all kinds of complications for the pathogen. And going back to your list there. Antibodies released into the blood, lymph, saliva, and or mucus. Antibodies attached to the pathogen and mark it for destruction. Antibodies stimulates responses such as agglutination, which occurs in red blood cells, precipitation, neutralization, chemotaxis, inflammation, or lysis. And you don't need to know what all those mean, but basically it causes a disruption or the death of the pathogen cell. Pathogen compromised or destroyed. Now, while that's going on, another antigen-presenting cell and helper T cell are in search for a T cell. Okay, so that's the cell-mediated pathway number 2. T cells attach directly to the pathogen and destroy it. That's the result of the cell-mediated pathway. The response goes like this. Antigen-presenting cell presents the antigen to the helper T cell, just like in the beginning it's the same. Killer T cells, wait a minute, helper T cells activate cytotoxic killer T cells. So there's no intermediary here. They find the correct cytotoxic killer T cell that has the bonding site for that antigen. They bond with that killer